Okay.
Everyone. Good morning.
Thank you. It's our honor.
Okay. Thank you very much, sir. Good afternoon. Hey, well, now it is time. 2 minutes time.
كده 100% كده 100. مدينا لنا سماعات من هناك الله يكرمك عارفين سواء في الوش كده تلاقي السماعات.
Good afternoon, good morning once again. My name is Nadine Omotoni. Okay, I'm talking to you from Nairobi, Kenya, at the ASO Central Secretariat. Okay, thank you, Dan, for sharing the screen. Welcome, everyone. We are still few, but participants are still coming in, and we can start our session of today as they are joining us. So I think everyone can hear me. Yeah, today is the 23rd. Can you hear me, my Hassan?
Yes, Nadine, you are loud and clear.
Thank you so much. Thank you. You are all welcome to this 54th session of the ASO monthly webinar series. Today is 23rd April 2025, and this webinar is being co-hosted by Egypt through the Egyptian Organization for Standardization and Quality, EOS. The theme of today is tourism and sustainable development. And we have a topic which is harnessing tourism for economic development and growth in Africa and fostering sustainable tourism for improved livelihoods and the role of standardization and government policy. Now, we have a host, which is ASO, the ASO Secretary General, Dr. Hemogen Sengimana, but he couldn't early, and I was appointed to represent him, and I hope that I will fit his shoe today. And apart from the host, we have a co-hosts. This is the Dr. Engineer Khalid Hassan Sufi, the chairman of the EOS Egypt and the ISO President-elect 2025-2027. And we have our moderator today. She's Mai Hassan, also from Egypt, and we have our panelists today, as you can see on the screen. We have Mr. Peter Waiyaki, who is also from ASO Central Secretariat. We have Mr. Roy Ariel, the General Manager at the GSTC USA. We may also have a colleague from the Turkey Tourism Promotion and Development Agency, if she has joined us. We again have Ahmed Youssef, the CEO of the Egyptian Tourism Authority in Egypt. Thank you so much. As we are talking about the sustainable tourism, we will have more insight from our speakers and panelists, but we can also have a view, a summarized view on what happens at international level and also what happens at Africa level. Globally, tourism is an invisible sector that contributes to export. It plays an important role in the global economy, which where we see that it contributes 5% of the gross domestic product, the GDP, and also 30% of the service export. And generally, it creates 235 million jobs. And in Africa, tourism contributes, Africa contributes in the tourism sector 1/3 of the earth biodiversity. Within all African countries, there are areas that where we observe these as abundant within the natural conditions. So we have some reports, the UN reports that highlight that tourism sector directly supported 9 million jobs, and that contributed to around 3% of total employment in the continent. That was in 2016. We can also look at the policy initiatives, but the policy initiatives, they have some challenges and also opportunities, potentials, and we can directly see what are the challenges. These are common ones, such as the population and urbanization and the threat of it to ecosystem. And we have also some slow visa facilitation and immigration headaches. We have the capacity gaps in the hospitality service in the hospitality service industry. We have poor connectivity and infrastructure that hinder the free movement of people and goods. And we also have low levels of intra-regional economic exchanges. But we also have some potential of this sector. It creates jobs, as I highlighted earlier. It also boosts inclusive economic growth across the continent, this Africa. It also reduces poverty since it creates jobs, and also it gives people some income. Now we have the 2030 UN Agenda on Sustainable Development. We all know this one designated the year 2017 as an International Year of Sustainable Development. Apart from that, the UN also established an agency on tourism, which is the World Tourism Organization, as the leading UN international agency in the field of tourism. Now this agency has established a World Tourism Day, which is on 27th September annually. It was since 1980. The mission of this organization is to promote tourism as a driver of economic growth, inclusive development, and environmental sustainability, and offers leadership and support to the sector in advancing knowledge and tourism policies worldwide. In Africa now, many countries in the region have already drafted strategic plans to develop the tourism sector as an economic opportunity. We can take just a few examples here. We have Botswana, Egypt, Mauritius, Rwanda, Gambia, Kenya, South Africa, and Tanzania, which are all putting significant efforts into advancing travel and tourism development and are working hard to improve their business environment for tourism investment through ministries of tourism and wildlife, also through the tourism agencies and authorities. In addition to this, the African Union has initiated continental initiatives. Some of these initiatives we find at the NEPAD Tourism Action Plan, which is a framework to foster sustainable tourism on the continent. And also the aspirations of the Agenda 2063, which stipulates the need for the African passport and free movement of people as another initiative. Apart from this, I can talk a bit more on the NEPAD Tourism Action Plan, which is the TAP. The TAP, which was developed under the guidance of the African Ministers of Tourism, who met annually, who usually meet annually under the United Nations World Tourism Organization, that is the UNWTO Commission for Africa. And this action plan, the TAP, was adopted during the Third General Assembly of the African Union in 2004. That was in Addis Ababa. So the TAP aims at making Africa the destination of the 21st century, and focuses more on the key areas, the areas of the NEPAD, of course. These are the policy and regulatory environment, institutional capacity, tourism marketing, research and development, investment in tourism infrastructure and products, and human resource and quality assurance. These are the key areas by the AUD priority. Now we can jump to sustainable tourism by asking ourselves what it is. Now, according to the UNWTO, that is the World Tourism Organization, the sustainable tourism is tourism that addresses the needs of visitors, industry, the environment, and the host communities, and takes full account of current and future economic, social, environmental impacts. This brings us to the three pillars of the sustainable development, the sustainability. And these ones are environmental sustainability, social sustainability, and economic sustainability. The environmental sustainability, as we can imagine, can be addressed through actions such as reducing and eliminating wastes, and also minimizing the overall carbon footprints and or other environmental protection related issues. Now, the social sustainability, it is taking care of the business employees, stakeholders, partners, and communities in which the business or the company or SMEs operates. The economic sustainability is all financial profitability. A business which doesn't get profits is not sustainable. These are the three components of sustainability. The UN Agenda 2030, which has 17 sustainable development goals and also 169 targets, has embraced these dimensions of sustainability and highlights 5 critical dimensions, which are people, prosperity, planet, partnership, and peace. That is, those ones are commonly known as 5 Ps. In Africa now, we have what we call Annual Sustainability Tourism Africa Summit. And for the African continent, the tourism stakeholders and the governments have come together and launched this annual Sustainable Tourism Africa Summit. That was in 2015. And this year's summit was held in Kisumu, Kenya. And it marked the 10th anniversary of this summit because it was launched in 2015. What do we have under standardization? Standardization for sustainable tourism. Now with the concerns on sustainable consumption and production, and also based on the SDG 12, the standardization community witnessed the rise of voluntary sustainability standards. These involve the eco-certification and with labeling programs. And also, if I can jump, this will be discussed by Mr. Waiyaki. We also have some sustainability standards, which include a sustainable tourism standard. And we also have an eco-labeling scheme, which deals with awarding an eco mark. This is the eco-label at Africa level, eco mark label to sustainably produced products. That was to just jump for us not to ignore this fact. So these instruments are used by the producers, manufacturers, traders, retailers, and other service providers to demonstrate their commitment to good environmental, social, ethical issues in production and services. Now let us highlight a few initiatives on sustainable voluntary sustainability standards on tourism, which we have a chance to know a bit more today as we recognize some speakers from these institutions. The one is the Global Sustainable Tourism Council, which is an independent and neutral organization legally registered in the US, United States of America, as a non-profit organization that represents a diverse and global membership. The speaker of today will tell us more on their organization objectives and how we can benefit from their work. So briefly, the GSTC standards are drawn or are based on the ICIL codes of good practice for sustainability system. And also we will explore more, we will know that from the speaker of today. The other organization is the Turkey. This is a Turkey experience with standardization and sustainable tourism. That will be from the Turkey Tourism Promotion and Development Agency. If the speaker managed to join us, that would be good, but we will still have, if she didn't manage, we will have some information from this organization. Through this institution, the Turkey has proactively been steering its tourism industry towards sustainability, enhancing global competitiveness and aligning international trends through collaboration with the GSTC. Sorry. The third organization is the Egyptian Tourism Authority, ETA. Through this organization and also the Egypt's Ministry of Tourism and the Antiquities, Egypt recognizes the value of travel and tourism to the Egyptian economy and jobs, placing it at the forefront of the agenda with a real focus on investment. We will also have the representative who will tell us more information. Now, talking about Egypt, we cannot forget our co-hosts, which is also an ASO member and also a council member. This is the Egyptian Organization for Standardization and Quality, EOS, which represent Egypt in the international and regional organizations in the field of standards, quality, measurement, and testing. These ones, I will now talk about the objectives of this webinar. Also has been having this webinar and this kind of webinars And this was a council, a NARSO council resolution, and also the request from our members and our stakeholders. So we appreciate our member states that have been supporting us in holding these events, and mainly their objective is to strategically engage the standardization, conformity assessment bodies, and also other policymakers in standardization. It gives, this webinar gives an opportunity for interactions, and also it's a good platform for stakeholders to discuss on issues around these areas. You can see the specific objectives, and we will share this presentation so that participants can go through them, actually can go through everything and understand more. So now jumping to this, we have our host today, as I said in the beginning, Dr. Imogen Sengimana, the ASO Secretary General, has not made it to this webinar because he's out of the country for an official mission. So Sengimana is the Secretary General of the African Organization of Standardization since 2012. He holds a PhD in analytical and environmental chemistry from the School of Chemistry, University of Witwatersrand, South Africa. This is from South Africa, and postdoctorate studies from the same university in Botswana. Dr. Imogen Sengimana began his career with ASO in 2012 as the Secretary General. He's steering ASO to fulfill its mandate of harmonizing standards and conformity assessment to reduce the barriers to trade and promote intra-African and global trade. Dr. Imogen Sengimana has demonstrated higher success at all key programs of the organization, given his thorough understanding of the challenges of technical barriers to trade, issues in Africa, and in world trading systems. Based on his wide knowledge, the World Trade Organization TBT agreements, based on this, his knowledge on this WTO TBT agreement. Beyond his more than 20 years of service to Africa, many of which in leadership position, and with a long-standing and clear track record, with ability for delivery of result, Dr. Sengimana specific area of expertise is corporate governance, strategic planning and execution, team management and mentorship program, monitoring, implementation and evaluation, trade and economic policy analysis and implementation with a bias towards African economic and trade policy agenda. He has in-depth knowledge of quality infrastructure with a deep grasp of its major components: standardization, conformity assessment, metrology, and accreditation, and their interplay on how each affects trade and economies of nations of the world. We can move to the chairman as I give him the floor, but I can introduce him before that. Our co-host is Dr. Engineer Khalid Hassan Lusi, the chairman of the Egyptian Organization of Standardization and Quality. Dr. Khalid is also an ISO president-elect for the term of 2025 to 2027, having been elected by ISO General Assembly in September 2024 at the Cartagena, the India's, on 9th to 13th September. He has taken on standardization. He has taken on standardization roles, responsibilities at the international level. That includes membership of ISO Council member, of the African Organization for Standardization, Council Board member of the Standard and Metrology Institute for Islamic Countries, SMIC. Dr. Khaled is a former United Nations expert in UNMIS and UNMISL. Engineer Sufi currently serves as the ISO Council member for 2022-2024 term. With a dual degree in engineering and quality management system, he has more than 25 years of experience in quality management in Egypt, in Africa, China, and the Middle East, lecturing postgraduate courses. Dr. Khalid holds a bachelor's degree in engineering and master's in quality management system from the Arab Academy for Maritime and Science, and a PhD in statistical control and quality assurance, and diploma in laser measurement. Dr. Khalid, we are welcoming you. Thank you very much for co-hosting this event. Kindly take the floor and address the webinar. Thank you very much.
Sorry,
Go
Nadine.
ahead, sir. Yes, Ma'am Hassan, there's something that you are
Yes.
saying?
Good afternoon, dear friends, and welcome to the 54th ARSO EOS monthly webinar, which is focusing on the tourism and sustainable development. I'm really pleased to be with you today to discuss something that holds so much promise for Africa tourism as a key engine for economic development and better livelihoods across the continent. With its wide cultural diversity and rich natural resources, Africa has the potential to become one of the world's leading tourism destinations. However, with great opportunities comes great responsibilities. As we are explore the ways in which tourism can fuel growth, it's imperative that we do sustainability, ensuring that the environmental, social, and economic impacts are positive for the next generation. When we talk about building a strong tourism sector, we need to highlight the role of standardization, where setting clear, trusted standard will help to ensure quality, safety, and sustainability, and it builds confidence among visitors, both from Africa and beyond. We are fortunate to have a distinguished panel of experts with us today who will share their knowledge and insights on this important issue. Their experience is in the tourism, environmental, and policy sector will guide us in understanding how we can work together to build a tourism sector that not only drives economic growth, but also contributes to improve livelihoods and safeguarding Africa's rich natural and cultural resources. Thank you for being here, and I look forward for our discussion today.
Thank you very much, Dr. Khalid. And thank you for welcoming everyone to this meeting, to this webinar. Now, if Dan, you can share the screen before I hand over to the moderator. Our moderator of today is Ms. Mai Hassan, who is also currently working with the Egyptian Organization for Standardization and Quality as the head of the Arab and African Affairs Department, charged with communication and managing agreements and memorandum of understanding with international and regional organizations. She has a large experience, 16 years of experience at EOS, and he has been also a NASO desk officer, and she has a membership to ASO DISNET committee. She holds a bachelor degree in language with specialization in Germany from Ian Shams University. Mai Hassani, I I'm handing over to you, and you continue and moderate our webinar. Most welcome, Hassan. Thank you. Hi, are you able to hear us? Cannot hear you. Okay. You are muted. Now it's fine.
Okay. Oh,
There is an echo. Maybe you can be more than two, or you have two gadgets. That's why maybe one can be, you can remove the audio from the other one.
now you can hear me?
Perfect. You can increase the volume, but we can now hear you without echoes.
It's okay now?
Perfect.
Nadine?
Yes, Mai, go ahead. I can hear you
Okay.
on my side.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. I was saying that it's my pleasure to be with you today. And this is the third year that US co-hosts the ASU monthly webinar. And I'm sure it will not be the last one. Today, we are honored to have a panel of experts who will share insights, innovative solutions, and actionable strategies to balance with tourism growth with environmental and social stewardship. And before we begin, I kindly ask all participants to submit their questions in the chat box. At the end of the presentation, our panelists will address as many of these questions as time allows. Now let's go straight to our first panelist, Mr. Peter Wayaki, Assistant Monitoring and Evaluation Officer at RC. He is going to take us to leveraging the potential of tourism as a key pillar for Africa's sustainable development, opportunities, challenges, and policy preparation, and the role of standardization for the development of sustainable tourism. Mr. Wayaki, you may share your presentation and proceed. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, everyone. Please confirm that you can see my screen.
Yes, we can see your screen, but could you share it on the first screen?
Pardon?
Please put in a presentation mode.
Okay. So good afternoon, everyone. Thank you very much. My name is Peter Wayaki from the ARSO Central Secretariat. And today I'll be speaking about harnessing tourism for economic development and growth in Africa, and specifically what ARSO is doing to target this initiative. So as a brief introduction, to ARSO, ARSO is an intergovernmental standards body that is mandated to harmonize standards and develop conformity assessment procedures. And it was formed by the AU and the UNECA in 1977 in Accra, Ghana. And ARSO's mission is to facilitate African industrialization together with intra-African and global trade by providing harmonized African standards and conformity assessment procedures. Part of our vision as ARSO is to be an excellent standardization institution that promotes a quality culture and supports in support of trade, industrialization, and sustainable development in Africa. Part of ARSO's mandate is spread over three main areas, where we have standardization, where ARSO is mandated to harmonize national or sub-regional standards as African standards and issue the necessary recommendations to member states for this purpose. Under conformity assessment and technical regulations, ARSO is mandated to encourage and facilitate the adoption of international standards to its member bodies, while performing a role of capacity building, research, and information sharing, where we have an exchange of experts, information sharing, and cooperation in training of personnel in standardization activities, as well as coordinating the views of its members to ISO, IEC, and other international standards development organizations. So delving deeper into our main topic today, we're looking at harnessing tourism for economic development and growth in Africa, where we see the overview of tourism impact in Africa is that tourism significantly contributes to the GDP and employment, shaping the local communities and influencing national financial stability. You also have economic growth potential for Africa's tourism sector, where we have the tourism industry in Africa having an immense growth potential, which is driven by global tourist arrivals and evolving customer preferences. The SDGs have also aided in the development of Africa's tourism potential, where we have an approach that ensures economic benefits do not compromise the social equity or the environmental sustainability, and thus fostering a resilient community and preserving the cultural heritage for the future. So what are the opportunities that we have for African tourism as a growing sector? So with millions of international and domestic tourists visiting annually, Africa's tourism is on a growth trajectory, and the statistics reveal that there is a booming industry with which is vital for economic diversification and resilience against the global downturns. We also have diverse attractions, where Africa's tourism appeal is rooted in its diverse attractions and natural wonders, where we have like the Serengeti to the cultural landmarks in the ancient pyramids. So this diversity not only attracts a varied tourist demographic, but also encourages multidimensional travel experiences. Additionally, our cultural heritage and natural resources contribute to a wide variety of activities that we can engage as an African tourism sector, and this promotes the promotion of these elements helps to develop a niche market such as ecotourism and cultural tourism, which further enhances economic contribution and community engagement. However, despite this promising growth, the tourism sector in Africa faces several formidable challenges, and one of it is the infrastructure deficits, which hinder access of quality service, while political instability, on the other hand, affects travelers' perceptions and decisions altogether. Additionally, we have environmental concerns, where this issue cannot be overstated, because this is a pivotal area for preserving the natural attractions that draw tourists in the first place. So, moving on to the various policies and initiatives that governments have put in place and their impact on tourism development, we have various policy frameworks where government policies regarding tourism can either facilitate or hinder the sector's growth, and effective policy frameworks that promote tourism development foster a supportive ecosystem for investors and stakeholders alike. A good example that has been mentioned earlier was the Agenda 2063 flagship project on African passports, and imagine the potential it would have to the tourism sector in Africa. The investment in, incentives, which come in handy to offer the tourism sector, are crucial. They are crucial because they enhance local and foreign investment, and these incentives can include tax breaks, infrastructure support, and this eases the regulatory burdens to cultivate a favorable investment landscape. We also have regulatory challenges where we have complex regulations which can stifle the growth by imposing burdensome compliance requirements, and thus there is need for streamlining regulations to ensure that they are conducive for businesses and can enhance competitiveness altogether. Moving on to the role of ARSO in standardization and certification for sustainable tourism. So for this, I'll focus more on ARSO certification scheme D on sustainable certification program, which addresses matters sustainability. And most of these sustainable standards are targeted towards vegetable crop production, livestock production, aquaculture production, fisheries, forestry, and of interest is tourism. So we have an, as ARSO, we have an African eco-labeling standard that targets tourism specifically. And one of the key areas that you'll notice is that it addresses various themes within the standard, where we have human and labor rights, we have due diligence, we have environmental and climate change, we have gender, we have sustainability in business, we have quality, and you will notice that this is a holistic approach of the sustainability standard. So under each of these themes, you'll be able to see that there are various principles that, which are statements that describe the fundamental and environmental, as well as the social and economic aspects of a sustainable standard. Additionally, there are objectives that are under each of these themes, which are broad, which are the broad goals arising in relationship to one or more of these principles that are outlined within the theme. Additionally, we have a criteria. The criteria is a characteristic feature in the system, and that provides a basis for assessing the performance if you align to this standard. Finally, we have indicators, and these are the actual requirements that ensure that the criteria is met. And once you have been certified for this standard, then you receive the ARSO EcoMark, which is at the middle of this presentation. But this EcoMark is awarded based on the level of indicators that you have complied to, which brings on the pyramid on the far right, where we have the various tiers for certification on EcoMark. We have the bronze, we have the silver, the gold, and the platinum, which is all dependent on the various indicators, which I'm going to be speaking to in this slide. So ARSO's EcoMark program is based on a continuous improvement criteria. What this means is that your business is can be certified, but it is not allowed to remain in the same certification tier. In this case, we are talking of continuous improvement, where you gradually increase the compliance of the various indicators over the 4 performance levels that I had mentioned earlier. So you'll notice at in the table in the middle, we have the various indicators that determine the bronze, silver, gold, and platinum award. So the indicators of performance in EcoMark can be classified broadly into three. We have the required indicators. As you can see, they are the ones highlighted in yellow, and these are the ones that you need to adhere to at 100% level. For the general indicators for each of these levels, you can adhere to them for at least an 80% adherence level. For the optional ones, they are considered as continual improvement, where we have a 20% as a minimum level of acceptance. So as I conclude my presentation, the key takeaways from this presentation is that tourism is a significant driver of economic growth and job creation in emerging economies, contributing to the GDP, service exports, and employment, particularly for women and young people. So the continent's unique natural resources and cultural heritage offer substantial opportunities for development, and although there are challenges that are there, then it's possible for us to address them using quality infrastructure. The regional frameworks and collaborative efforts among countries can also enhance competitiveness and attract more tourists altogether. So for the recommendations for the stakeholders is that African countries should focus on implementing effective tourism development strategies, which include infrastructure improvements, security enhancements, and sustainable practices. This will lead to a brighter vision for sustainable tourism, where environmental issues such as poaching and climate change which pose an existential threat, will be addressed. Sustainable practices must be integrated into tourism development to safeguard ecological integrity while promoting sustainable tourism altogether. Thank you very much for your attention and your time.
Thank you, Mr. Wayati. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear, but you are very far from the microphone.
Okay.
Yeah, your
I
volume
have a
is.
problem with that. I have a problem with the sound today, so I'm very sorry. Thank you, Mr. Wayati, for your useful presentation. And before we go to the next session, I have two questions for you. The first question is, why tourism is strategic to Africa's sustainable development, and what has been the challenges for low benefits form it as a priority sector? The second one, how does the ARSO sustainability standard on tourism and EcoMark Africa beneficial to the tourism industry and all stakeholders, including the native community? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mai, for your question. And to address the various challenges that I had spoken to, which are facing tourism sector, is that we have a critical infrastructure deficit, which we can look at it from the physical point of view and the quality infrastructure point of view. So this deficit causes a barrier to tourism growth and impacts the various tourist experiences that we have. And that is why we have the ARSO eco-labeling program and standard, which addresses most of these issues within the themes. So we have the human and labor rights, which are targeted. We have the due diligence, we have gender, among the various themes that are covered in this sustainability standard. And adhering to this would bridge the quality infrastructure growth that we have in the sector, and thus improving the experiences of the various tourists that we can have enjoying the African tourism. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your response. Now we have our second panelist, Mr. Roy Ariel, General Manager at the Global Sustainable Tourism Council in USA. And he is going to presenting on developing a common language about sustainability in tourism, the role and benefits of the Global Sustainable Tourism Council, global sustainable standards and certification systems. Mr. Ryu, it is our pleasure to have you, and we give you the platform to share your presentation. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for the nice introduction. Let me share my screen. Okay, you should be able to see my screen. All right. Great. I will spend the next 15 minutes to speak, 20 minutes to speak about the GSCC, which is the Global Sustainable Tourism Council, the leading global authority in setting and managing standards for sustainable travel and tourism. And as such, as you heard, we were supposed to have also a panelist from Turkey. And unfortunately, due to an earthquake that just occurred about an hour ago in Istanbul, she might not be able to attend. Thankfully, we have a very good relationship, so I'll be able to share more about the program, which I was intended to do anyway, but I'll elaborate more. So first, let's look at definitions, right? We have a session now. Our webinar is hosted by ARSO, and with anything related to standards, we really need to look into definitions and terms. So tourism that takes full account of the current and future economic, social, and environment impacts, addressing the needs of visitors, industry, and the environment and host communities. Now, here's an important thing. Sustainable tourism does not refer to a specific type of tourism, but it's an aspiration for impacts of all forms of tourism. So sometimes people hear sustainable tourism, they think about an eco lodge in the rainforest in Costa Rica, or perhaps a lodge in the Okavango Delta or something like that. It actually can refer to a regular budget hotel in the capital city of any country of your liking, or of course luxury hotels, hostels, and many others. So it's all forms of tourism to be more sustainable. But when we speak about sustainable tourism, right, we have different definitions and so on, and that's why we use standards to help us to recognize what sustainable tourism is. There are many standards out there and many labels, and a problem is that it creates a lot of confusion. That confusion eventually leads to inaction, perhaps choosing standards or labels or frameworks that are not necessarily the most rigorous. As we've seen in the previous presentation, the issue of credibility is very important. And that is the reason that in 2007, the GSTC, the Global Sustainable Tourism Council, was established by the United Nations Foundation, UNWTO, UNEP, Rainforest Alliance, and a coalition of 32 partners, including national administrations as well as NGOs and private sector. The idea was to create an organization, the Global Sustainable Tourism Council, to establish one global standard that everyone can refer to. That brought to the creation of the GSTC standards, and you might also refer to them as the GSTC criteria, which has been referred to over the past years. Currently, we have 4 sets of the GSTC standards that were developed. For the industry standard, that's for hotels and tour operators. That's the first one that was published in 2008, revised, and second version was published in 2012 and later 2016. And later this year, we'll do another revision. The destination standard, which is used by DMOs, destination management organizations that operate and manage touristic destinations when engaging with many stakeholders. Last year, we published 2 new sets. One is the My Standard, which refers to mostly events, venues, and so on, and the Attraction Standard. And please understand that this nice image of a roller coaster doesn't mean that attraction is only theme parks. Actually also includes museum, national parks, and many other things that fall under definitions of attraction, and that standard is relevant for them. The GSTC, all of the standards are were based on these 4 pillars: sustainability management, social and economic benefits, cultural heritage, and environment. So I'd like to share 2 points that I forgot to mention before. When the GSTC criteria was developed in 2007 to 2008, the organization actually looked at all the existing frameworks, standards, labels, guidelines, and so on that were in existence, and identified that these 4 pillars are something that can be referred to. And of course, the criteria, we looked into different themes that repeat in different ones. And of course, we included a very rigorous way of including public consultation and following very strict term of reference on how we develop standards, and now also how we revise them. And these 4 pillars, now many consider them as the 4 pillars of sustainable tourism. They were so much ingrained in the modern day conversation about sustainable tourism. And I really like it to speak about C for a second, the cultural heritage, because many times people that come from outside the tourism world or forget about that cultural aspect is so crucial to that, right? And cultural heritage is very diverse. It's not only physical structure, it's languages, it's food, it's so many things. So sometimes if I speak to people that come from the finance world, I like to refer to it as ESG plus C, to help them to remember the C part. Now, sustainability standards also help us for many of you are aware that they are the basis of certification, but not all standards are used for certification. Some are used for training, education, and awareness. Some guidelines for legal and regulatory codes. And we have actually a number of countries around the world that use the GSTC criteria or an equivalent one as guideline and legal regulatory codes, but not necessarily for certification. Of course, it helps us to measure and evaluate because we need something to refer to. And also market access clarity, that if I will have time, I will touch upon at the end of my presentation. So the second thing that the GSTC, the organization, is doing besides managing the global standards for sustainable travel and tourism is providing assurance. First, we have the issue of assurance of standards. How to choose from around 200 plus labels in tourism industry. Some of them are good, some are great, and some are, you need to find a polite way to say that they are not so good. So the GSTC recognition of standards and system is a problem that we have that helps us to check if a standard owner applies formally to the GSTC to review the standard and see if indeed they include the 4 pillars and each one of the criterion of the GSTC criteria within that standard. Not all standards are used for certification, as I just mentioned. Now, the second thing is, while saying that, many times standards are used for reference for certification. And in that sense, let's clarify the definition of certification as voluntary third-party assessment through an audit of a tourism enterprise or a destination for conformity to a standard. Obviously, the reference to tourism here is because we're talking about sustainability in travel and tourism. Certification helps us to verify claims, right? It's not just a hotel says that I'm the most sustainable or I'm sustainable. How can you tell that? There is a third-party accredited certification body that goes and audits and looks if that claim is correct and refer to a standard in order to look at that. And that helps us, of course. I like to clarify that the GSTC does not conduct certification. That is the job of the many certification bodies throughout the world. What the GSTC does is accredit those that certify. So a little bit about the assurance of certification and the concept of accreditation. How do you choose a certification body? And again, the range is enormous, from rigorous, impartial, and excellent to poor. GSTC accreditation is a mark of quality that verifies processes of how certification bodies certify businesses in a competent and neutral manner. Procedures meet international principles for transparency, impartiality, and competence. Colloquially, I know many people that like the term certifying the certifiers, right? If a hotel or a tour operator or destination open themselves up to an external review, an audit of how they operate, well, how about the certifier? How do we know that they are doing the right work and they are legit? So then we have an organization that certifies the certifiers. Here's a graph that helps a little bit to understand the concept of level of assurance. We have zero verification, where there is no any verification to claim made by a business. Then we have a first-party assessment, meaning that it's just a self-assessment. Obviously, it's not impartial. The next level will be that we have a second-party verification. Impartiality is not certain because the verifier has some sort of relationship with the verifiee, the organization that is being verified. The next level would be a third-party certification that's supposedly impartial. But the supposedly is that the problem is that how can you tell that it's indeed a third-party certification and not a second-party verification? And if it is actually indeed impartial, how can you tell that other issues are indeed improper? And that's where accreditation comes into place to make sure that those certification bodies operate according to international norms on how certification bodies should operate. And they would be much more criticized or scrutinized if they were perhaps in other sectors, for example, industry and health and safety and so on. But sometimes with voluntary sustainability standards, we see a little bit of being laxed a little bit. Here's another way to look at it, right? So if we look at accredited certification bodies that certify tour operators, hotels, and destinations, we know if they're accredited through the GSTC, we know that their procedures are credibly verified, that they are transparent, impartial, competent, following the accreditation manual that was established by the GSTC and looking and referencing to relevant ISO standards. But if they are not accredited, doesn't mean that they are bad, but how can you tell if they are good or not? How can you tell if the procedures are transparent, impartial, and competent? Maybe they are, maybe they are not, but nobody has looked at them. And this is a problem that we see because that also creates a situation where sometimes people come across imperfect situation and therefore think that everyone else is like that. So I'd like to give a few short examples of using the GSTC framework on national levels. And if we have time, we'll look into a few other examples. Countries that use the GSTC framework, there's not enough space for the slide to show all, but that's just a few of them. You can see here Mauritius, and we have a representative here at the session from the Mauritius Tourism Authority. Hello, Med, and we have Botswana that has been referred to, and in 2018 we held the global conference of the GSTC in Botswana in Maun, which was a very successful conference that brought a lot of stakeholders together. Some other countries not mentioned here are Seychelles and Uganda and Zanzibar, and just yesterday we had conversations with partners in Egypt, and we have a lot of activity throughout the continent, both Sub-Sahara, North Africa, and in the Indian Ocean. And obviously, externally, we are engaged with many large destinations, countries that are using the framework, and we'll show you three examples. So this is a little bit complicated, so I leave this. Feel free to go with your eyes from one block to another, and I'll try to explain that, and then I'll go to the examples of each country, case study. We have different approaches on what to do. First is, I like to ask, what is the standard that is being used? We have cases where directly the GSTC criteria is being used. We have a situation where perhaps a standard that is developed in a national relevancy has been created. And that's what I refer to as what I mentioned before as recognition of standards, that would recognize other standards. So the first one, if you look at the case study number 1, we have 100% following the GSTC certification scheme. A standard is the GSTC criteria or a translation of the standard into the local language. And the certification body that conducts the certification of businesses is a GSTC accredited certification body. So implementation following global program, it can be mandatory and voluntary program, and a case study that I will show in a minute is Turkey. The second option would be adopting the GSTC certification scheme using either the GSTC criteria or recognized standard, but the accredited certification body is national or local certification body and not the regular certification bodies. That would mean a national local program. Again, it can be mandatory or voluntary. It utilizes a GSTC certification scheme. And a case for that would be Mauritius, where they have established their own standard and made sure that it is updated to include all of the GSTC criteria, and then went through accreditation process to be able to certify internally to the Mauritius standard. A third version, which actually many times we recommend to nations that are perhaps small or do not have a very strong already existing mechanism, and that's to just promote the GSTC certification without setting this very clear program. What I mean by that is that the countries follow global programs, consider them as voluntary programs. Of course, there are ways to encourage and support certifications through means of education, through means of financial incentives that will perhaps help with providing subsidies associated with the process of certifications. And 2 case studies for that would be Singapore and Malta. In both cases, the National Tourism Organization wanted to stay away from the process of certification and instead promote a proper scheme. And I will show now in more details each example. For Turkey, a few years ago, they have, after COVID, they have come up with the idea to make sure that Turkey accommodation sector and the tourism sector is truly sustainable. And they have set a very, very impressive target to have all of the hotels, all of the accommodation types, that also means small accommodations, large accommodations, to fully be certified by accredited certification bodies by 2030. And this came after their positive experience in COVID. Well, I should rephrase it. The COVID was not a positive experience, but what happened is that through their experience in COVID, where they have created a program that sets very clear label on hotels that participate in a health and safety program that allows visitors to feel safe to come to Turkey during the COVID period, they took that knowledge and experience, that skeleton, and said, why not we do the same thing with sustainability? So they reached out to GSTC, and over the next few years, between 2021, 2022, 2023, we have collaborated and provided guidance into a very impressive, sharp group of people at the Turkey Tourism Promotion and Development Agency that have eventually created this national program where there are different stages to it. Okay, you can't just say, okay, 2030, that's our goal, that's it, and go and do something else. Put money in marketing, blah, 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 blah. No, you have to set these very clear goals. You have to set these steps. You need to make sure that it's feasible, reachable, and you support also the industry. So what they have come up with our support is that their program is kind of a pathway, an improvement plan, where all of the accommodations need to comply with the basic things, and the verification process is a little bit more easier by 2030. And then by the end of 2025, you need to comply with more aspects. And by 2030, you need to comply by everything and being certified by an accredited certification body. During that period of time, the private sector was able to quickly adapt and developed and trained all the needed auditors. The government has provided support in different regions to different organizations that have run trainings for hotels and different accommodations to learn on what are the standards, how to utilize the standards, and so on. And so far, we see it as a very successful model. Actually, Turkey is the only country around the world that we are aware of where these standards are mandatory, of course, by 2030. But none other country in the world had set sustainable tourism standards as mandatory. That includes also countries in the Nordic region of the world where some correctly perceive that many of their industries are following sustainability regulations. They are still under voluntary style. So this is a very interesting program. And also what's interesting here is that with all the optimality and idealness from our perspective of setting standards and so on, it doesn't mean that every country can do the same, right? Turkey has a certain size. Turkey has a very large sector of tourism, and the number of tourists that come to Turkey is large. And they have the ability to set these targets and follow them, and an industry that collaborate with them. So I know everyone wants to know what the number situation is. So here it is. This is an update from this week. You can see the number of accommodations that have gone through the different steps. We're talking about 19,000 accommodations that participate already in this program. That's a lot. Now let's move to Mauritius, where thankfully we have also participants in the session here from the Mauritius tourism organization. This is a voluntary national program, right? So it is not compulsory like in Turkey, but it is a very robust program. And what has happened, and this is something that we highly appreciate at GSTC, the National Tourism Organization understood that what they do is certain things, but they don't have the knowledge and capacity and skills to deal with proper certification. So they came together and collaborated together with the Mauritius Standards Bureau, MSB, that is the organization that sets everything related to the standards in Mauritius, as well as conduct certification to that, and let them create the standard, right? As you see here, MS 165/2019, that refers to Mauritius standard that was published in 2019. It's called Standard on Sustainable Tourism, and also nicknamed as Blue Oasis, as many people refer to Mauritius as a Blue Oasis. And they eventually gain accreditation by GSTC to certify accommodations and tour operators in Mauritius according to the national standard. So that's a very specific case. And again, that's because of one, a strong standard bureau that understand the whole aspect. And the second is very good understanding and collaboration between the two organizations there. Tourism Organization, the National Tourism Organization, and the National Standard Bureau. Not in all countries, not in all regions, not in all states, that would make sense to do. But of course, that is an important model. The third model is the Singapore Hotel Sustainability Roadmap, that in line with their Singapore Green Plan for 2030, a roadmap that sets clear targets to attain the sustainable development goals. Obviously, it's not just the SDGs. It's a very detailed program. The Singapore Hotel Sustainability Roadmap is one program that helps to attain that. And the program is encouraging and supporting hotels to achieve sustainability certification by 2025. And later on, of course, to support more from next year, there will be another program that kind of enhances what has been built so far. Now, with Singapore, what has happened is that they have the Singapore Tourism Board did not create it by themselves. They came together and had meetings with the Singapore Hotel Association for a long period of time. And slowly they have realized that these are targets that can be achieved, they are attainable. It's feasible to actually set them. Yes, it will take effort. Yes, there will be a lot of challenges and it's not easy, but they understood that they can make it. And then they have set it, and so far we see a great success. We've seen a lot of accommodations in Singapore to already fulfill the requirements that I've set up by that. Last year in November, we held our global conference in Singapore, and it was just amazing to see the celebration of so many accommodations that were certified according to the standards. And because of the conference, it actually pushed a few to do it before. So instead of getting it in 2025, many of them have actually chose to push it faster to achieve it before the conference in November 2024. So this, as you can see, this based approach to sustainable destinations on how to utilize the GSTC framework. Again, there are many cases that we can look into that would be very specific, but these three examples kind of show you three versions of how national bodies or how this sustainable tourism framework can be applied in a national level. Thank you very much. And I will just ask the host, because we have been delayed a little bit, so I'm not sure if I have more time or not. If I have more time, I can continue quickly to show a few slides about some other organizations that are utilizing the GCC framework, which provides a very strong benefit for market access. But I'll ask the moderators to let me know about that.
I think we have time, Mr. Rio.
Okay, very well. Thank you. So I will continue for a few more minutes. Okay, so here are a few examples of how preferring and highlighting sustainable certified hotels. There are many organizations that the GFTC is working with, which is actually, they are thirsty for, there is a huge demand. There is by travelers, by business travelers, by tourists, by so many organizations that want to choose the sustainable products, the sustainable services, but it's so difficult to find who they are. So the GSTC has a program where we call the Market Access Program, where we work with a number, we work with the, of course, with the certification bodies and collect the information from them, and we share it with different OTAs, online travel agencies, as well as other agencies. So I'll just show a few quick examples of some that utilize this. Trip.com, the Chinese OTA giant, now highlights hotel and accommodations that are certified by GCC accredited certification bodies. So that's for them. They only show that. If you go and you choose, you go to the app on the website and you can filter and search for those hotels that are certified as sustainable. Think about that. An accommodation that could be highlighted like that among many other accommodations that are not certified to all the millions of users that are using Trip.com. The same thing with Booking.com that are highlighting third-party certification. I just to add that in Booking.com, indeed, the majority is based on the GSTC framework, but they also include a few other standards. Another OTA for accommodation and tours and activities at Traveloka. I don't think that the audience here is familiar with them, but it is a giant based in Indonesia that is active all over Southeast Asia and East Asia. That also have a similar program. You'll see that they use it a little bit differently on how they highlight it, how they explain it, but all of them are eventually looking, they really are thirsty to get this data and information about accommodations and tour operators that are certified as sustainable by proper certification bodies. Now, this I really want to highlight because I mentioned before that don't think that it is only for luxury eco resorts and large branded hotels that can gain certification of sustainable tourism. Hostel World is a long-term GSTC member that have devised this, they call it staircase to sustainability, where they also help to, one, highlight those hostels that are certified as sustainable, and those that are not yet certified to push them through staircases of level 1, level 2, level 3, and are very supportive of that. Klook is tours and activity OTA, so also not only accommodations, but tours and activity OTAs also do that. It's a giant here in Asia. But so far you mostly have thought perhaps about leisure tourism. It's actually also very relevant in the business travel sector. So we have American Express Global Business Travel, BCD Travel, CW2, and many other organizations and acronyms that are utilizing the GSTC criteria to help to highlight, to understand which hotels are certified as sustainable to show it to their clients. And we're talking about large clients that book thousands and millions of room nights per year. Talking about accommodations, you can see I just put one or two here because there's too many to show all of them, but many brands have been setting up very strong commitments that said all of our hotels will achieve certification by accredited certification bodies by 2025, by 2026, by 2030, and so on. So here are just two: Best Western in Asia Pacific and Hilton Hotels that have already said that they actually promote and hope to achieve more certification. And here's different examples outside of hotels, and that's for tour operators. So cruise line industry, we actually work with many cruise line around the world, and what they do is that we don't deal with the aspect of what's happening at the sea, but actually when arrive at the port destination. And they work with many tour operators that provide shore excursions, these daily tours. And in 2019, there was a target that was set a few years earlier by Royal Caribbean to offer these sustainable tours, meaning tours offered by certified tour operators. And in a similar manner, also MSC is using such a framework, and I can soon, if we have this webinar a few months from now, I'll be able to share a few details about a few other cruise lines where they actually utilize the GSTC framework to promote and understand, okay, if we want to promote tours that are provided by sustainable tour operators, how do we know that they are sustainable? They're certified by accredited certification bodies. And also it's a way for them to influence the whole tourism industry and do something good. So that's it for now. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Rayu, for the comprehensive and insightful presentation. And although Ms. Isra was not able to join us, you have covered her presentation very well. Thank you. And now we will go to our next panelist, Mr. Ahmed Yusuf. He is the CEO of the Egyptian Tourism Authority. Dr. Ahmed is going to take us through tourism as an economic development tool, national policy initiatives for the competitiveness of tourism and promotion of quality and accountability in exploring Africa's historic culture and artistic diversity, Egyptian national perspective. Dr. Ahmed, thank you for joining us today and give you the platform to share your presentation. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your kind invitation. Allow me to share my presentation. I hope it is visible for everybody.
Yes, we can see your presentation. Thank you.
Okay. Well, thank you once again for inviting me, and I would like to welcome everybody on the call. Of course, the picture in the presentation is not mine. It's my great-grandfather. Actually, we are about to open the Grand Egyptian Museum next July. So before I forget, I would like to invite everybody to come and see the great museum, where it will be the biggest museum in the world for one single civilization, and it will contain all the treasures of the young King Tutankhamun. So let me start my presentation. For whom doesn't know Egypt on the geography, we are in the middle of the ancient world, Africa, Asia, and Europe. This great position for the country was a great provider as a connection between ancient civilizations. We are talking then that the civilization in Egypt is more than 7,000 years. Ancient Egyptian, and then came the Greek, then the Romans, then and so on. So actually, in each corner of Egypt, you can find the history of a part of the world. This is actually a very important edge for Egypt, having such rich history. Not only this, but the amount of antiquities and the museums that we have is amazing. Getting into that, talking about the infrastructure that we currently have in Egypt, we have more than 120 hotels, including 230,000 rooms. Our strategic initiative to magnify tourism for the future is to double this number within the coming few years, maybe from 5 to 7 years. Hence, we have lots of initiatives to support investors, whether from Egypt or outside, global investors in the tourism sector. We also have more than 2,200 tourism companies licensed from the Ministry of Tourism and Antiquities, more than 2,600 vehicles, tourism vehicles. Of course, we have millions of vehicles in Egypt, but these are the ones regulated and licensed from the Ministry of Tourism and Antiquities. Also restaurants, bazaars, and so on. We also have more than 600 diving centers. I'm not really sure if any of the audience have tried to dive in the Red Sea. It is one of the most beautiful areas in the world when it comes to corals and diving opportunities. I would like to invite everybody to come and enjoy such great experience. We are very famous of two main tourism products, if I may say. The cultural tourism, when it comes to the antiquities and different museums that we have, in addition of the coastals of the Red Sea and the Mediterranean. Such rich geography impacted actually in the geographical opportunities and historical opportunities when it comes to tourism. However, we also worked hard in the past few years to develop new specialty products that we could provide, like the MICE products, sports, spiritual, leisure, and other opportunities. Okay. In Egypt, we have more than 30 reserves. Currently, they provide 10% of the whole land area of Egypt. Our colleagues from the Ministry of Environment have a very ambitious plan to have more than 25% of the Egyptian land area as preserves, and they are working hard with different parties in Egypt to achieve this important target. Of course, we have diversified kinds of reserves, and we are currently developing the services in line with the standards of ecotourism partners, whether from the UN or other donors or partners all across the world. We are not definitely limited to the reserves that we have. It have been several years now that we are developing also eco hotels, like the ones with no electricity or communication. It's simple back to basic hotels, and it is actually gaining more importance by time. And let me tell you, some of these hotels charge maybe double or triple 5 stars hotel. That means that there are great opportunities for eco and sustainable hotels coming in the future, where people seek relaxation and back to basics experience kind of things. We are also very rich when it comes to desert safari and camping and different activities that you can do in the desert. We already covered the corals and diving. We have the mountain climbing option. In addition of bird watching, Egypt is the one of the most important paths for bird immigration. And if one day any of the audience visits Aswan, for example, it's a city to the south of Egypt. It is the place where immigrating birds coming from Europe meet immigrating birds coming from Africa. It's a very interesting things to see. So bird watching is a very a big opportunity in Egypt that we are still developing and promoting all across the world. In addition of wellness, that we have normal sand dunes for different kind of skin treatment and other kinds of treatment, in addition of natural water and so on. Now, talking about the green initiatives, we have two main initiatives when it comes to tourism: Green Star and Green Fence. Green Star is actually targeting hotels in different touristic areas. Green Fence is focusing on the diving centers, and we know that diving centers in the Red Sea specifically is very important to preserve the corals that we have. Basically, these two initiatives focus on the waste management, resources, training for the staff, and in addition of supporting the employees themselves with the sustainable practices. We also have lots of programs for visitors from outside the country to make sure that they follow the sustainable practices, preserving nature and resources. Let me tell you that in the whole context of the country, for example, as Egypt, we have a plan to have 25% of our energy, for example, by 2030 to be a green energy sources. So we are heading into a sustainable practices, whether in tourism or the whole country as an overall umbrella and context. That will be, I don't want to talk much, and actually I would like to listen more for questions for people that are interested to know more about tourism, sustainability, or investment in Egypt. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Ahmed. Before we go to the end of our webinar, allow me to pose two questions for you. The first one: what are the key benefits of tourism in Africa, the key drivers and challenges? The second one: what are the key initiatives of Egypt in its revolution towards sustainable tourism, and any challenges, including regulatory factors? And to what extent is standardization began in cooperative? Thank you.
Okay, let me take the first question when it comes to the key drivers and opportunities. For me, let me say that tourism, according to the UN tourism, is actually one of the biggest employers in the world. From each 10 new opportunities of working, 4 of them goes to tourism. So maybe for other industries like manufacturing or logistics or whatever else, they are more inclined to use AI and machinery. In tourism, it is still required that people to deal with each other. So we are talking that tourism in Africa is a very big and important driver for employment opportunities. That's number one. Number two, when it comes to sustainability, that means immediately dealing with local communities. When it comes to handicrafts or natural food, gastronomy. So it is not only by direct employment in tourism, whether you work in transportation or hotels or airports and so on, but also the local communities benefit dramatically from tourism. Especially the lower class and the handicraft people. I also know and believe that in tourism, it is the least industry when it comes to pollution for the environment, and the most responding to changes when it comes to green practices and so on. I hope I covered the first question. And I think that, when it comes to tourism also, it is much economical to invest in tourism. I mean the technology, we don't need that much advanced technology to establish tourism infrastructure or invite tourists to come. Definitely, there are tools like the online booking and so on, but eventually tourism is not that much sophisticated to transfer as knowledge or to establish as infrastructure. And in Africa, I believe that we have very important distinguishing edge when it comes to tourism, whether in our case like advanced diversified products, or in other parts like the eco product that we have, the wildlife, mountain climbing, diving, sports in different kinds, the fantastic weather that we have, the nature, the culture. So I believe that Africa is very distinguished when it comes to opportunities in tourism that has not yet revealed to its maximum. I believe that we still have long way to go. As for the challenges, in my view, is that we need more infrastructure spending, not specifically in tourism, but in the infrastructure in different countries, like roads, like accessibility, like airports. We also have challenges when it comes to planes and aircraft carriers to the continent. Most of the people coming to Africa is actually coming through foreign airliners. So I believe that we have a great opportunity there in Africa to spend in infrastructure and transportation. What's the second question again, please?
Okay, the second question was what are the key initiatives of Egypt in its revolution toward sustainable tourism, and any challenges, including regulatory factors, and to what extent is standardization being incorporated? Thank you.
Okay. When it comes to sustainability in tourism, we are already on the go when it comes to the green fins and the green stars, to push more hotels and encourage more hotels for a more sustainable practices, in addition of the diving centers, to make sure that they have enough tools to have better waste options, better resources usage, awareness for employees and tourists. We also encouraged lots of transportation companies in Egypt to use, more friendly transportation means, using gas or other electric vehicles in transporting tourists. We also have other, maybe smaller initiative, if I may say. Most of or lots of the antiquity site or museums right now, we are transferring to paperless tickets to preserve the papers, and we are going digital in our marketing activities, migrating from the normal printed materials to the digital and the social media. When it comes to different practices, we have also initiatives, financial initiatives from the Ministry of Finance in collaboration with the Central Bank of Egypt, to encourage people building more hotels with good green and sustainable practices. That will definitely encourage the three axes of better economy, better environment, and the better social standards that we would like to present for our people and for the world. As for standards, definitely we are working with the different entities in Egypt that are, putting the standards in different manners when it comes to construction, roads, electricity and energy, food and hygiene, environment. So we work with every part in Egypt to make sure that we have good standards and practices in the future. We also work with different partners that are specialized in such activities, like the United Nations and different entities of the United Nations, and other donors or experts like the GIZ. We used to have the USAID, I'm not really sure of the future, and the European Union, definitely. Lots of entities, technical entities that we refer back to when it comes to international standards of doing business.
Thank you very much, Dr. Ahmad, for your answer and insightful presentation. And now we will open the floor for the questions. Anyone who would like to ask a question, please send it in the chat box. And I have a question to Mr. Rio. Mr. Rio, are you with us?
Yes, please go ahead.
Okay. My question is, why is sustainable tourism important in the context of the 2030 SDGs, especially with regard to SDGs 8, 12, 14, and 17? Thank you.
Just a moment, let me pull up the numbers again. Might not be able to remember them all by heart, although I have studied many of their indicators many times. But let me first just to share that the GCC criteria from the beginning took into consideration first the Millennium Development Goals, the Millennium Development, the MDGs, the Millennium Development Goals that were created until 2015, and then later on, of course, in 2015, a much more rigorous program came with the ambitious 15-year plan to achieve the 2030 goals that were set, the 17 ones. We're actually have done that. Now it's also any set that we create, we look at we actually compare and make sure that if you look at the GSTC criteria, you'll be able to see to which SDG it refers to. Can you write down the numbers just to make sure that I refer to the correct SDGs? I think you said
Okay.
8.
8, 12, 14, and 17.
Okay, so 8. Actually, we're just I'm laughing because earlier today we had an internal conversation in preparation for our global conference that will take place this year in August in Fiji, where we're going to have a session that focuses on these issues related to the workforce, about works, about the empowerment of people that are involved in the industry. So this is something that clearly is being seen in the GSTC criteria. And obviously, it's crucial, right? Without decent work and economic growth, you will not be able to attain many of the things. And tourism acts as a mean to achieve that. And if you don't manage tourism well, wherever it can be managed, then you might end up actually creating a risk. So we know of it is quite known that there are many negative effects of tourism, from questions about low wage, exploitations, and many other things that are associated with that. So we need to make sure that they are addressed, and that's why sustainability and proper standards are important to influence anyone within the market. That's related to 8. 12, responsible consumption and production is actually one of the SDGs that in many discussions that we have with UN agencies, that's the SDG that comes up the most. Responsible consumption and production, because production, you can think about it not only on the production of physical goods, but actually of services, where tourism, when we speak about tourism, the majority refers to services. Of course, as we just heard in regards to Egypt, also handicrafts and physical things are important and crucial. But when we speak about people and so on, it's mostly on services, and the using standards. Eventually, we at GSTC, we don't speak to customers, we don't really speak to the travelers. Yes, we have some information on the website for those that come to and search for it, but our interaction is with governments, tourism organizations, large and small, and so on. So what we do, we as a group, the whole network, the whole movement of sustainability in travel and tourism is actually mostly looking at the production part, because the consumption, we know that the demand is there, the demand is high. Look at any report, any survey, any study by booking.com, trip.com, any organization you want, you will always see that over the past few years, there's been a huge, very clear increase in preference of travelers. And it doesn't matter where they come from. It's all international information. You can see increase. Yes, there are places that perhaps that increase is higher than other countries, but we all see that it is a global trend. So we know that there is the demand and requirement, but the production, the service side is just not catching up fast enough. So we end up having that thirst that I was talking about by OTAs. And then you refer to SDG 17, which is partnership for the goals, and just the concept, right? It's partnerships for the goals. We just saw in the last presentation on what the Egyptian Ministry of Tourism and Antiquity is actually collaborating, for example, with the Green Star Hotel in Egypt, which is a GSTC recognized standard. So all of the GSTC criteria are actually there. Or also their collaboration with Greenfields, as another international organization that focuses on activities related to snorkeling and diving and marine activities. So you can see that that was just a good example of how we collaborate, and that's really, really crucial. We can't do these things by ourselves. That's really part of my understanding from when I first learned about the SDGs and went through them. There is a reason why it ends up with everything. It's the last one, sorry. You have all the details of the different SDGs, and the last one eventually says, all these things are very important, but we can't do them by ourselves. we have to work on them together. And this is why I'm also very happy to be speaking to you today and also provide examples from other places, because working together doesn't mean that we have to do everything exactly the same pace, exactly the same things. We are different people, different humans, different accents, and where we come from and the languages. And we have to do it by learning from each other and perhaps adapting and deciding, okay, this is good for them, but for us, we'll do it in a different manner, but together we'll be able to push things together. So I hope that concludes my answer for your question. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your answers and also for your good presentation. Now I have a question in the chat box for Dr. Ahmed from Egypt. He asked, he said, please, may you give some figures on Egyptian tourism, e.g., how many employees, what tourism bring on country's GDP? This question is for Dr. Ahmed.
We are estimating 1.5 million people working directly in tourism, in addition of indirect numbers, but these are people working in aircrafts, airports, hotels, buses, etc. Tourism represents almost 15% of the whole GDP of Egypt, almost equally to industry and or manufacturing and agriculture. The other GDP will be services.
Thank you, Dr. Ahmed. Before we go to the end of our today's webinar, I invite all panelists to share their key takeaways before we close, and we will start with Mr. Wayaki.
Thank you very much, Mai,
Thank you.
for the smooth coordination. And as we close this webinar session, I believe that we can take away 3 major C's of quality infrastructure, where we have collaboration, we have competence and compliance, which are very critical for the sustainable tourism sector, as we have seen from all those presentations. And they underpin that the establishment and the functioning of a robust quality infrastructure within the African continent. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Ryu?
Good points by Peter. I would say perhaps that that relationship between international norms and the local or regional norms on how we make sure that we are aligned in different areas.
Thank you. Dr. Ahmed?
I'm sorry, would you repeat? I lost my signal.
Just give a takeaway message for today's webinar.
I'm sorry?
Just give us a takeaway message for this webinar.
Yeah, for me, tourism is still a growing and immature business, especially in Africa. I believe that we have great opportunities in tourism when it comes to investment, return on investment, creating jobs, and supporting the local community. We need to spend a very good amount of money on infrastructure and to partner with lots of organizations in other countries all around the world to do so. Maybe also tourism have, I mean, the return on investment for tourism is much quicker than other industries like agriculture or manufacturing, or maybe logistics. You can establish the base today and very soon you can get your return on investment. So that will be the key taking from my side when it comes to tourism and sustainability for the future.
Thank you very much, Dr. Ahmed. And I thank all panelists for their insightful presentation, and all participants. And also, I thank Arsu for giving me the opportunity to moderate this webinar. And now I'm going to hand over the webinar to Ms. Nadine. Thank you, Ms. Nadine.
Thank you so much, Madam Moderator. That was a very interesting session. Thank you so much again, our speakers who have taken us through all this sustainable tourism advancement, and we really appreciate. And I've seen that participants have also appreciated the presentations, and we promised them that we will share with them. And thank you once again. So what we are going to do towards the end of our session is to just inform you on the upcoming events at ASO. This was the 54th session, which was held today on 23rd April. We are planning to have the next session, the next monthly webinar, which is the 55th session, to be held on 28th May. Under the theme, the AFCFTA Opportunity for Africa. And the topic, you can see it here. And we also have planned other topics for discussion. We will have other panelists such as the AFCF Secretariat representative, African Union, and other more now to be contacted and confirmed as we go on. And we have to invite everyone here and the other stakeholders to our upcoming General Assembly, which is the 31st ASO General Assembly, which is being hosted by Tanzania and in Zanzibar. This will be on 3rd from 25th to 23rd to 27th June in Tanzania this year, and everyone is really invited. Before we go toward the end, we have other coming events for the webinars for the year. You will see them as they come along. So before we close our webinar, on behalf of also, I thank you very much, but I have to call upon Dr. Khalid to speak and give a closing remark. But before this, yes, okay, yes, of course, Dr. Khalid is our current ISO president-elect, as I said as I said in the beginning. You can understand that Africa is now taking the lead. It's something that we are all enjoying, and I can request you to react on this by congratulating him, and also congratulating Africa for being at the head of the ISO in the coming term. Yeah, thank you so much, Dr. Khalid. Please take the floor. Was our webinar. Thank you so much, and we really appreciate your presence throughout the webinar. Thank you.
Thank you, Nadine. And I always believe that our nation, Africa, deserves all the best. And yes, we can. We can do everything. We can take the lead in the international organization. We can build a better future for our nation. And as we bring this insightful webinar to close, I would like to confirm that the sustainable tourism cannot be achieved without the foundational support of standardization and effective policy framework. Building a strong and resilient African tourism sector required a holistic vision that balanced quality, environmental sustainability, and inclusive economic growth. Today's discussion have been truly inspiring, showcasing innovation, initiatives, and invaluable experience that underscores the power of collaboration, where standard bodies, government, private sectors, leaders, or civil societies, each of us have a critical role to play. So together, we can shape the tourism ecosystem in Africa that is not only sustainable, but also globally competitive. I would like to extend my deepest thanks to the organization, speakers, all participants from and everyone who contributed in this session. And let's transform today ideas into actions on the ground and progress that will elevate African tourism to new heights of sustainability and global excellence. Thank you very much and hope to see you soon. All the best for Africa, all the best for ARSO, all the best for EOS.
Thank you so much. Before we leave, we can have a photo, please. Let us all put our camera on so that you can take a photo. Photo. Have not opened their camera. Then please tell us when you are ready or when you are done.
We are done. Thank you.
You are done? Okay. Thank you so much and have a great evening. And those who are still in the morning, in the afternoon, have a great day ahead. Thank you. See you soon. Bye.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you. Goodbye.